Welcome to Bunnyfish Crafts. I'm your host Heather, known as Bunnyfish on Ravelry, Plurk, Instagram, and YouTube. Today is Monday, September 16th, 2013, and this is episode 44, Missed Milestones. Grab some sticks and string and come sit with me. So, last week I was so involved with the fact that Gabriel's birthday was about to happen and that we were having visitors that I totally missed some things that were going on Ravelry. Like, there are 100 members in the group now. That's awesome. I hope that most of those 100 members are still coming back and watching. I enjoy hosting this podcast and I really enjoy the interaction. And the other thing is that my sock yarn blanket has been on the needles for an entire year. That's a really long time to have one project on the needles. This week was pretty good. Gabriel turned 5. Oh my goodness, he's huge. Okay, so he's the same size as he was last week, but I just feel like he's huge now because now he's 5. I had really good crafting mojo all week, and then toward the end of the week, I ran out of yarn for a project and I went to get more, and it's not fancy dancy yarn, it's Caron 1 pound. I went to get more, the store didn't have it. Another store didn't have it. Apparently this color is missing. I did the math poorly when I started this Afghan apparently, because I should have gotten 2 skeins of white instead of only 1, but I only got 1. So now I have to wait for the stores to get it back in before I can make really good visual progress on the Afghan. Boo. And this morning I was like, hey, I'm gonna sew something. And I started working on something for my sister, and then this happened. This is the tip of my needle, and it broke and smacked me in the face. It only hurt for a second, but I was like, I was getting into the sewing thing. I was planning on putting together some projects that have been sitting next to me, all pinned and waiting for me to be ready to sew. And then my needle broke. I know I have spare needles, but I just unpacked my sewing machine last week or the week before, and I haven't unpacked my sewing stuff yet. It's still packaged away. Frustrated. Anyway, let's talk about knitting stuff. Temperature craft along, going strong. Ooh, exciting about this project. So, on, which sock is it? This sock. Sorry, the lighting is not great today. It's a little overcast. Okay, so do you see this bluish right here? Just a tiny little bit of blue. The yarn is blue in this brown color. That's the 60-degree yarn. There was one day where the high was only 67. So that's really exciting. They're coming along good. I still have a few inches before I have to worry about how I'm going to do the increases. You would think I would think about that before now, but you would be wrong. It's going good. Instructions on what the temperature craft along are in the show notes and also on the Ravelry group. And the VKN craft along, there are only 2 weeks left, so get your projects finished and in the thread. There are yarn and pattern prizes and a bag prize from my VKN friends. 4 prizes total. The tag is BPHVKN, and the idea is to use a yarn that's been dyed by one of my VKN friends or a pattern that was designed by one of my VKN friends, and all of those links are in, you can find them on the blog, you can find them on Ravelry. There will be an upcoming knit along in October. That will be with Josh from Sort of a Knitter. He made a really awesome, I think it was called the Plurk Friend Scarf. It's kind of like a recipe, so we'll be making scarves based off of that recipe. If you want to join in, that would be Awesome. Basically what you need is yarn in multiple colors. I'm going to go with 3, and an appropriate needle for those set of needles for that yarn. You could probably do a variation with crochet hook instead of needles. And I will have more information coming up on that in the group this week. I'll start a thread giving more details. I don't have any finished objects this week. I tried really hard. I worked a lot on some things, but I didn't finish anything. You know who did finish something? My sister. She finished her blanket, and it is pretty fantastic. It's made out of Lion Brand homespun. I don't know what hook she's using. I would guess either a US I or J, but I can't say for sure. I do have lots of works in progress though, and they have progress, which is exciting. I'm going to show you one that you haven't seen in a long time first. So these are the Nightingale socks. I think the last time you saw them, I was just to this part right here, the very bottom of starting the Fair Isle section. Maybe I was still on the toes though, I can't remember. But this is the Nightingale pattern by Vintage Pearl, and I am using Knit Picks Stroll fingering in black. And this is a local dyer. It's, what is it? I can't remember. I can't find the tag, but I wrote it down. A yarn well spun, and the color is A Wind in the Willows. I know I have the tag somewhere. I've seen it in the last week or so. Oh, it's just gorgeous. So these are officially back in rotation. You will be seeing these. If you don't see these next week and in following weeks until I finish it, please say something. Okay, my hair is driving me crazy. It's just, there we go. That should be better. Okay, sorry about that. So, if you don't see me working on the Nightingale socks, say something, call me out on it, and be like, excuse me, miss. You have 8 pairs of socks on the needles, and that one in particular needs to be worked on. Although hopefully next week I will only have 6 pairs of socks on the needles, because here are the Grand Island socks, patterned by Jenna Meyer. I don't know why I can't remember. Talk to her all the time. And here's the bottoms. This is my hand spun sock yarn, which fiber came from All Spun Up. It's 100% superwash merino. And this is where I was last week. Oh, there's yarn all caught up in that. Looks less impressive with the yarn in front. Okay, so I just started. It was right here. So I finished the foot, started on the leg. I have 6 more pattern repeats, and then the cuff, and then I'm done. Should be easy peasy to get these done next week. And the other pair of socks that should be done next week are the inlay socks. Oh yeah, the, not that you can see what I'm pointing to, but right here are the Grand Island socks, and those are knit on US 2.75 millimeter needles. I have inlay from Hunter Hammerson. Hi yarn, you want to cooperate? No, it doesn't want to cooperate today. So here are the inlay socks, and that's a better indicator. Okay, so I was down here last week. I finished the legs. I have the heel flap done on one. I just have to turn the heel and then do the heel flap on the other. And since there's only patterning on the top of the sock, the second half of these socks should go very quickly, and hopefully these will be done next week. I'm using Knit Picks Stroll fingering. I'm shedding right now. I don't know why, because the weather is cooling down. So opposite of animal shedding. Anyway, Stroll Fingering Knit Picks Springtime Tonal. And it is so bright and in your face. Hi, green. Worked on those. The pattern, okay, I'm going to talk about the pattern for a moment. Looks impressive, right? Looks really, really complicated. It's not. It's just twisted stitches. I mean, it's not easy peasy. I have to look at the pattern to, there are rest rows in between, and then I have to look at the pattern for the actual pattern row, but I only have to look at it for the first part of the sock. Like, I only had to look at it for across here, and then for across here, and then across the back, and across this back, it was already in my head. So, I just can't remember the order in which things change up. It's okay though. It's pretty easy to do, pretty quick, and it looks a lot more complicated than it is. If you are going to make this though, keep in mind that the twisted stitches make it a little bit tighter than normal, so you might want to go up a size. Like if you normally cast on 54 stitches for your socks, you might want to go, or 50, whatever, the 50 number, you might want to go up to the 60 number. I don't know. I can't remember what the stitch count is. Free pattern on Knitty. It's really, really great. Highly recommend it. And also I love the way that the sides are working up. Not that you can see it in this crazy light. I'm really sorry about the lighting today. I work with what I got. I tried turning on my lamps in the room and they didn't help. I also worked on Gabriel socks. They got more love than I anticipated. Safety pin showing you where I was last week. My plan was to do 7 rounds, 1 every day with Gabriel. And then he decided he wanted to do more. Well, more accurately, he would come over and he would say, okay, time for socks. And he would knit the first 5 stitches or slip the first 5 stitches from left needle to right needle. Decide he was done, so I would just do across the needle. It's a good system. They'll definitely be done by Christmas. He keeps coming up and saying, Mom, the socks are too small. I'm like, well, we gotta work on them. That's the only way they're gonna grow. Fine. So then, you know, the 5 stitches and then I finish the row. But they're going. They'll definitely be done by Christmas, which is when I'm letting him have them. Still not sure how long I'm going to make them, but it doesn't matter because I'm doing a tube sock so he can wear them for ever. Probably going to start ribbing soon-ish so that the tube sock won't just fall down. This is not nearly the length of his foot. I think it's about half the length of his foot, but probably going to go another this much and then start ribbing so that it snugs around the heel a little bit. This is Ducklings and Chicks from the Fiber Club from Hippie Penguin Fibers. This was the second color that we got, and it was the one that I was like, not so much my color, but I love the name. But Gabriel is obsessed with the socks. Well, he's obsessed with them when he sees them. It's just like anything else. He has had a different favorite color every day this week. It's basically the first thing he sees. And then he's like, oh, purple is my favorite color. Red is my, well, he doesn't say favorite. Red is my favorite color. Adorable. I love my childs. Both of them. That's all the socks that I worked on this week. And I didn't cast on a pair of socks. Or anything. I didn't cast on anything new this week. I'm really, really proud of myself. It was very difficult because I have 4 sock yarn projects waiting right there. 5. I have 5 sock yarn projects waiting right there. And some arm warmers. I'm sorry if you can hear the fussing. Steve is home from work on lunch right now, and he said he would watch the kids so I could podcast, and there's an explosion, and he's not taking care of it, which is really, really annoying because that's his job when he is taking care of the kids, is to mitigate the explosions. What can you do, boys? So, blankets. Socks and blankets. That's what I'm doing these days. This is the miter square lepgan that I'm doing. I did the square. See, here's my little dingly right here. The brown is called barley. I don't know what the green is because when my sister started her blanket, she bought yarn for it, and then she decided that she didn't really like the green that she had bought for it, and I had a different Lion brand homespun green yarn, and we traded. So I don't know what this color is, but it looks like apples to me, and I like it. I'm going to give you the color rundown because I said I would this week. So the brown is barley, and the green is, I don't know. This gray is charcoal. This other color, purpley and stuff, color changing, that's Tudors. This white is not Lion brand homespun, but it's similar texture, and then charcoal again. The cream is, I think it's still cream, and then Tudors, barley and cream. This blue that is not Lion brand homespun, switching to some blue that is Lion brand homespun that I couldn't find the exact name of, and then a pastel-y color that is not Lion brand homespun, back to the cream color. So those are the colors. I'm waiting to see how big 3x5 is, but the more I think about it, the more I think I might need to get more yarn. I really don't want to though. I really wanted this to be stash busting without having to purchase more yarn. That is the wedding ring quilt. It's on the Coats & Clark website. It's free. I'm making it in Caron 1 pound white, lavender blue, and lilac using US size I9 or 5.5 millimeter hook. So I'm really, really frustrated with myself for not buying the appropriate amount of yarn when I started. I did the math because I'm not using the yarn that was called for, and I don't know how I possibly thought that one skein was going to be enough white, but it's not. And I ran out of white a couple days ago. So instead, I've been making the light purple ring parts, which, yay, they're so awesome. Soul draining. This project is just getting more and more soul draining. It's not that I don't like making blankets. I just don't like this particular blanket. I like making blankets. I have a lot of blankets going on, but I just don't like this project. So that is kind of, well, but hopefully they'll get the yarn in soon, and I will still be on track to finish by the end of the month because I really, really, really want to be done on September 30th. Just want it to be done so I can start working on other things like Cecilia's blanket, or put in more time on some of these 8 pairs of socks that I need to get off the needles. Although I will give myself some slack on the temperature ones because I can't finish those until next May, as some viewers pointed out. So it's really only 7 pair that I just need to work on. And I did work on, well, I worked on 3 that I showed you, and 1 that I didn't because it's a test knit, and you can't really see what's going on from the photograph, but with what I've done this week, you could see it. So it's secret knitting, and I can't show you. Hopefully that one will be close to done next week too. It won't be done, but it should be pretty close. Onto sock yarn blanket. Getting so big, and I'm still not going to show it to you, but I will show you what I put on this week. Leftovers from the Cursed Cable Mitts, and, ooh, wrong way. This is Cloud Lover juke joint that I used for my string band hat. BFL sock, Fleece Artist. Knit Picks Stroll Tomo in Canopy, and Knit Picks Make Believe hand painted. So those last 3 were used in the Fractured Shawl. And this is Mountain Colors Crazy Foot in Firestorm, made socks for Steve out of that. And this is Red Heart, Heart and Soul in Green Envy, and I made socks on a plane for me out of that. So that's what I've added this week. As I told you last week, I am doing a row of yarn from projects that I have completed, so I need to complete some more projects. I don't quite have enough to go across a full row, but that should be doable this week. Finishing those 2 pairs of socks, I should have enough finished projects to finish the row. And then I'll be starting with the yarn from Annette and doing a couple rows. And then after Annette's yarn is in, I think the blanket will be big enough to justify showing you the whole thing all at once. Let's see, what else? Oh, I forgot to tell you about these socks. So, unofficial knit along for Handspun going on, even though it's kind of official now because there are prizes, but I'm not offering the prizes, so still kind of unofficial. There is a tag now. It's BP Sock SAL for Bunnyfish Sock Spin Along. There's still plenty of time to join to spin yarn if you have a wheel, maybe not so much if you're using a drop spindle. The idea is to make a pair of socks out of some hand spun, and it has to be a pair with a minimum of 200 yards. So yeah, go forth. Come join in. Show us your spinning in the thread even if you're not going to make socks out of it. That is still good. There will be a sweater knit along in November and December. Some people in the group have expressed interest after last week's ramble on about how I want to make a sweater. So I think that it's going to be, okay, it is going to be any sweater pattern that you want, any weight of yarn that you want, and I'm going to limit it to 1 entry per person just because maybe you want to make like 7 baby sweaters for Christmas out of worsted weight yarn, and someone else wants to make a fingering weight adult garment for a guy who is the size of my boyfriend, which is quite large. I want it to be fair because it will have a fabulous prize, which I don't know yet because, that's so far away. I can't think that far ahead. But start thinking about sweaters now. I think I'm going to do the Moody, which is a worsted weight sweater for myself. And, okay, I have a question. I looked through the notes and looked at people's pattern notes and looked at the yardage sheet for the pattern and looked at specifically people who made the size that I'll be making, and they're coming in way under yardage, like a couple hundred way under yardage. Some people have done it at like 300 yards under. And I don't want to run out, but I also don't want to overbuy yarn. Your thoughts are probably that I should overbuy a little bit just in case, right? Not try to squeak by with the minimum amount, or should I just try to squeak by? I don't know. I'm still up in the air. I'm definitely going to go with a not super expensive yarn for this go round in case I have to rip out a lot. I mean, the pattern that I'm making doesn't look super complicated, but there is sizing, and what if I do the math wrong or something? Who knows? So I would also like opinions. I haven't worked with any of the yarns that I'm looking at. I am looking at Knit Picks Swish. Is that it? The 100% superwash merino worsted weight. I'm looking at that. Have you worked with it? Does it work nice? Does it fall apart quickly? I I'm not going to go with Wool of the Andes or the Superwash because it's not merino and I don't want to not be able to wear the sweater because it makes me itch. I am going to look at Cascade 220 as well. So what are your thoughts on these yarns? If you've worked with them, how do they work up? How do they hold up? I would prefer to use superwash over non-superwash because I want the sweater to be my go-to sweater, and I have 2 small children who get dirty frequently, and especially Mara with her hands and all the things. They're getting better. Gabriel is less dirty. I just dropped a stitch. Fail. I'm working on the ducky socks while I'm talking to you. Anyway, Gabriel is pretty good about not getting too dirty, but Mara, she's only almost 3, so I just would like it to be pretty easy care. Steve is not keeping up his side of the bargain. Not that there was a bargain, but he's home. The kids should be content to stay downstairs with him instead of bothering me, right? No. Nope. Keep busting in, so sorry about the choppiness. I forgot to talk about last week the book that I started reading. I started reading Motherhood in Bondage because the owner of the book visited last week, and I was like, oh yeah, I should probably read that and get it back to her. It is sad. I really, really enjoy women's studies and anthropology in general. And it's just so heartbreaking to read these stories. A recurring phrase is, the doctors tell me not to get with children again, but won't tell me how not to become pregnant. And we have so much knowledge now about about birth control, about family planning that they didn't have back then, and how much that knowledge has enabled us to have better lives, healthier children, better all around. It's really interesting to see how far we've come. It's published in 1928. So it's really? Really? It's interesting to see how far we've come since then. Whatever. At this point, it is what it is. So I have 3 more podcasts to recommend. The first you've possibly heard of. I know I've talked about it on the podcast before, or talked about something related. The Stockinette Zombies with Megan and Amy. I just finished watching all of their back episodes, and they have a lot of episodes. They're good, though. They run about an hour, I would say the average is. Maybe 50 minutes is more the average. They've got really good chemistry. They're really funny, and they knit like crazy. Tons of progress almost every week. I have a confession to make. I didn't start watching them before I signed up to go to the Zombie Apocalypse last year. I signed up and then I was like, well, I guess I should probably watch the podcast that has the ladies who are hosting it so that I at least know their faces before I go. But I really enjoy it. It's not that I didn't watch it because I didn't want to watch it. I just didn't watch it because I have the list of podcasts to watch and they weren't at the top yet. The other 2 podcasts are newer. Both have, I think, 6 episodes. The first is Knits and Things with Heather. She is hosted on YouTube, and she is a first grade teacher, so her podcast is Dr. Seuss themed. Her segments include things like Thing 1 and Thing 2. Thing 1 is knitting, Thing 2 is spinning. So she knits and she spins. She has a boy, and she talks about him at the end of the podcast, so she always says that you can leave if you don't want to hear what's going on with him. It's very enjoyable. She runs about an hour. And the last is Undead Yarns with Heidi. Her podcast episodes, I think the longest one is 20 minutes. She is a dyer of Undead Yarns. And if you catch her latest episode, she has a coupon code for Undead Yarns. Her color sense is a little bit brighter than mine, but that's okay. I enjoy seeing bright things on other people. I find that kind of funny. I just looked at myself in the screen and realized I'm kind of wearing a bright shirt today. It's a little bit bright. I love this shirt though. I forgot how much I really liked this shirt. It's been sitting in the back of my closet because I go to blacks and grays, which there's gray in this, but I'm usually a darker color person. And I was like, well, it's the podcast today, and I always wear black, so maybe I should change it up. And then I put it on, and then I remembered that it has this really cute cutout detail that I really, really, really like. And I was like, wow, this shirt is really cute. Why don't I wear it more? Obviously, because it's not black. If it were black and gray striped, I'd probably wear it all the time. I hope you made something fantastic with your sticks and string. I got some more work done on the duckies socks. I'll see you next week. Bye.